Good morning and welcome to Member Focus Monday. I'm Christina Schaefer, Director of Social Media for HAR, and I am joined this morning by Ryan Wayant. He is the CEO of the LGBTQ plus Real Estate Alliance. Ryan, I know this is your second appearance on this program, but we're so happy to have you back.
Well, good morning, Christina, and good morning, Houston. This is a great way to start a Monday, and I am so excited to be back with you.
Absolutely, and we have some great stuff to discuss this morning. We're all about helping every community that we can, and the LGBTQ plus real estate community, if you will, or the LGBTQ plus community is no exception. There's some real issues impacting this community that we're going to discuss today, and there's some ways that realtors can actually help. So we'll get into all of that, but before we do, Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do.
Oh my goodness. Well, as you said, I am the proud CEO of the Alliance. We are just about at our third birthday. On Father's Day of 2023, we'll celebrate 3 years as an organization, which is a little surreal for me. It's gone so fast. I actually come from the finance end of real estate. I spent 6 years with Wells Fargo and 4 years with US Bank, doing everything from loan production to diversity, equity, and inclusion work to training. And then I started a consulting company working in organizational development, building organizations like the Alliance, actually. And I thought that the Alliance was just going to be a great trade line on my resume when the opportunity came to me. Built the organization, turned it over the board, and they came back a couple weeks later and offered me a contract to come on and steer the ship, so to speak. And it was absolutely flattering. It changed my life. My first real role as top of the food chain executive, so to speak. I've had a lot of operations management experience, but this is the first time that I've actually stayed on to pilot an organization that I've created. So it has been, like I said, a blur of a 3 years. I can't believe how much we have done, the relationships that we have solidified, and really the impact we've already had in our short existence on the industry. So it's a million miles an hour. We have a very humble staff, full-time staff of 6 folks. And then, as you know, just like any association, we have a whole fleet of dedicated volunteers that make sure that we're doing the right things every day, in and day out. So it's real. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you truly have seen it from the ground up, and congratulations and happy anniversary. A little early, but happy anniversary on those 3 years. That's exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So tell us about the Alliance. What does the Alliance do? What is the goal behind the Alliance?
Yeah, so I think for any member organization, especially a professionally centered organization, it's kind of a complicated question, right? There are a lot of things that we want to do. There are a lot of things that we all identify, especially, your organization, the Alliance. And then we look at what we call the 4 families, the other diversity organizations, ARIA, NAREB, NAREP. We all have very, I would say, big, hairy goals. We want to increase the home ownership rates for our respective communities. Now, when you look at the LGBTQ plus community, that includes every other minority and majority community under the sun. We are a microcosm of the fabric of humanity. So we have really, really big boots to fill, so to speak. Our home ownership rate right now in this country is about 49%, which is significantly lower than the 65% average and the 73% white Caucasian home ownership rate. So we have work to do, and we'll talk about ways that we can get there and barriers that are holding us back right now. But really, our mission at the Alliance is to advocate, elevate, and celebrate everything LGBTQ plus in the real estate sector. And Christina, I think you know this, but in 30 states, in fact, I think the last time I was on the program, it was 29 states. In 30 states now, it is legal to discriminate against folks for being LGBTQ in all aspects of the real estate process. So unfortunately, the laws are not going in our favor right now. With over 700 pieces of state and local legislation that are directly aimed at the LGBTQ plus community, things are challenging. But really, we have 4 platforms at the Alliance: advocacy, education, philanthropy, and business development. And each one of those works very, very specifically at enhancing the member experience.
Okay, well, thank you for explaining that to us. I want to talk a little bit about that discrimination you mentioned, and we can share a link to your website in the comments. But according to your website, there's specific reports of discrimination and its impact on home ownership. So tell us what you've seen throughout the years, and have you seen major changes?
Yeah, so that's a great question too. And really, if you look at discrimination on a whole, I would say that we've migrated from overt or very intentional discrimination to covert discrimination, a little more hush hush to more of an implicit bias society where
Mm-hmm.
we have natural factors who compose us from our upbringing, how we were raised, what we are raised to believe, that impact our interactions with folks on a daily basis. It might not be direct discrimination, but it still directly impacts how we treat and think of people. The Alliance has now published three annual reports, and each one is very, I would say, unique and significant in its own respect. Last year's report was, I'll just say, alarming. We figured out through looking at data and research and our member feedback that there is a direct correlation between discrimination and bullying in your early years, middle school, high school, to a lower home ownership rate in your 30s and 40s. And it
Mm-hmm.
makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because when you're being harassed and bullied in school, in primary school, your focus isn't on achievement and academics. Well, that trickles down, right? Because what happens naturally when you're supposed to graduate high school? You're supposed to be taking placement testing to go into some kind of post-secondary college or vo-tech
Mm-hmm.
to advance your education, right? Well, obviously, if you're not focused on grades, your achievement is going to be lower than that of your peers. So your placement and your ability to get into college is going to be impacted, which is going to impact your ability to make money after college, which is going to impact your ability to qualify for financing and a loan and actually secure housing. So
Mm-hmm.
we tied that correlation. We had to look at it several times before we published it because I was uneasy with that premise. But it's there, it's real, and it makes sense. So discrimination, bullying, it does actually hinder home ownership. And
Mm-hmm.
as I say, we have now published three reports. The latest one just came out in mid May, and those are all available for full download on our website under our education section at the Alliance, realestatealliance.org.
Okay. So you mentioned a significant difference in the homeownership rate
Yeah.
between what the average is. What are the barriers? Why is that homeownership rate so much lower?
Yeah, so those are questions that we are all looking at. And unfortunately, right now in this country, there is no data collection. There's no centralized data collection to look at metrics. So the numbers that we have are either secondhand through educational institutions like Williams Institute at UCLA, or their collaborations between organizations like Gallup and the Census. But there is no clearinghouse of data like there is for racial or ethnic minority data per se on actual home ownership numbers. So these are best guess numbers when we talk about that 49% home ownership rate.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of theories as to why that number is the way it is, but I think the first and probably most significant is the fact that orientation and identity are not protected classes federally under the Fair Housing Act. And that matters. That really does matter. So there are temporary band aids in place, executive orders from the White House, and interpretations on rulings from the Supreme Court, but there is no legislative rule in place that protects orientation or identity. So it falls to the states. And as I said, in 30 states right now, Alaska just reversed their policy a couple months ago. In 30 states right now, it's legal for a couple who's selling their house, if they find out that a gay couple is purchasing it, they can shred that purchase contract at the closing table. A lender can charge more on an interest rate if they find out that their client is LGBTQ plus. There can be an eviction process that's warranted through the rental process, denied shelter in a public shelter facility. So there's a lot of work to do, and it really all, we talk about advocacy and we talk about standing up for civil rights. I've said it a million times, but when we talk about these things in the LGBTQ world, these are apolitical discussions. These are not red or blue discussions. And if a party is trying to politicize that, that is not the problem of the LGBTQ community. Human rights, human dignity are apolitical discussions.
Yeah.
So when we fight for these things, when we make our voices heard and when we stand up, that's just for the basic human dignity and civil rights that most people in this country currently enjoy. And until we're able to achieve that, I don't think we're going to be able to close that gap which is fairly significant, as you just said, in home ownership and achievement.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that we really see is persistent is a lack of education. There is a lack of fundamental education in everything from the path to home ownership to how the mortgage process works to the difference between renting and owning and what that means for generational wealth. And
Mm-hmm.
until that education is actually presented to the consumer and actually open for public facing and interface, folks we can't have an expectation as professionals in this industry that our consumers are going to really get it or understand why homeownership is so important. So we're actively addressing all of those things at the Alliance. Education is something we're very passionate about, and we just actually about a month and a half ago launched a direct to consumer website similar to what HAR did not too long ago,
Mm-hmm.
actually. And now we're presenting these great opportunities direct to consumers, working with Freddie Mac for Credit Smart and making sure that the path of home ownership training is delivered directly to consumers. So we're very passionate about it. We're very excited about it. And we really
Mm-hmm.
do think that we're going to have an impact.
That's wonderful. And thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the work that the Alliance does to bring light to these issues so that we can have educational opportunities to make some changes. I would love to hear any tips that you have for our members to create inclusive real estate practices and how our members can best serve the LGBTQ plus community.
It's a great question, right? So often, especially in the circles of diversity, equity, and inclusion, we talk about allowing folks to be their authentic selves. And there has been a fundamental shift in corporate America and corporate settings, even over the last decade, about leaving your problems at home. Don't bring your baggage into work. Don't bring your drama into work, right? To be your authentic self
Mm-hmm.
and bring your true personality and your ethics and your beliefs into the office because you're going to be able to serve your clients better. What we are seeing is that when folks are really enabled to be their authentic selves in their workplace, they do serve their clients better. And now more than ever, and you'll hear it from me, you'll hear it from Gary Acosta at NAREP, you'll hear it from John Wong at ARIA,
Mm-hmm.
Renee Wilson at NAREB, the minority population is the future home ownership group in the next 10 years. Gary Acosta at NAREP will say that 73% of all home purchases in the next 10 years are going to be from the Latino Hispanic community. I'll tell you that there are $1.7 trillion in LGBTQ money wrapped up in this economy every year. That's larger than the combined economies of Canada, Australia, and South Korea. The American LGBTQ economy is the 10th largest economy in the world. So
Mm-hmm.
it's no longer just an ethical or a moral imperative to be working with minority communities. It's a business imperative because if folks aren't making that shift in their business practices and working with people who don't necessarily look like them or resemble their
Mm-hmm.
set of skills or beliefs, they're going to get left behind and their business will at some point implode because there's just not enough straight white consumers in the marketplace anymore
Mm-hmm.
to continue how we've been doing business for the last 60 years. So I guess the first thing you have to do is recognize who you're trying to serve and how you're going to be able to resemble that community or best work with that community. And maybe that means diversifying your workforce. Maybe that
Mm-hmm.
means working with your broker to make sure that there are agents in your office that represent some of those pockets of your community that you haven't been able to get into yet. Maybe that means having someone bilingual in your office. In the state
Mm-hmm.
of Texas, if you have a brokerage and no one speaks Spanish, boy, that doesn't sound like a good business plan to me.
Yeah.
Specific to our community, we take all of those factors and we wrap them in, right? Because as I said earlier, the LGBTQ plus community wraps in every other minority and majority community under
Mm-hmm.
our umbrella. Now, there are some things that you need to be sensitive of when you're working with our community. The biggest thing would be set your mind free. Don't make assumptions. So, when two women or two men, maybe someone non binary that you can't identify, walks into an open house, yeah, remember open houses pre pandemic when we used to do that to sell homes? I think they're coming back, by the way. But when a couple or two folks walk into a scenario that you are hosting, do not make an assumption over who they are and what they're looking for. Have that conversation the exact same that you would with anyone else, right? It's all about treating people equitably and bringing your own preconceived notions off the table before you start to engage.
You know, I would imagine that people might find themselves in a situation and you're saying don't make assumptions, and I think that's great advice. But what if they accidentally did make assumptions or they accidentally did offend someone? What is your advice? What do you suggest somebody do if they find themselves in a situation where they maybe said the wrong thing?
Yeah. And it's easier today than it ever has been to quote step in it. I've done it. In
Hmm.
fact, I just did it last week. I think recognizing that and calling that out right away, correcting yourself and moving on is the best thing that you can possibly do, because the reality is that we're all human and we are
Hmm.
all at different places of understanding. Our goal at the Alliance is to take your hand and to bring you into the education that you are looking for. That's
Hmm.
different for everyone, right? And everyone's going to learn at their own pace. It's challenging, especially when we talk about pronouns, and gender norms. It's really
Hmm.
challenging to enunciate and talk about some things out loud when we've been taught a very specific thing for a very long time, right? So breaking down these gender norms in our head, that's the first step. And let me tell you, it does not happen overnight. As a so straight passing, I can go out on the street and folks wouldn't know that I'm gay just by optics, right? So we
Hmm.
call that straight passing. As
Hmm.
a straight passing white gay guy leading this organization of an incredibly diverse group of professionals, I step in it from time to time. And I've done that. And what I am told from my peers, my friends, is that if you recognize that right away and you apologize subtly and you correct yourself and move on, um, it shows that that mistake was done from a true place of innocence.
Hmm.
Now, if you do it repeatedly, then it starts to turn malicious, right?
Hmm.
And that changes the scenario a bit. That's when feelings are hurt. That's when folks get really offended, and understandably so. It's a little like if you got married, Christina, recently, and maybe at first I called you by your maiden name, and then 2 years into your marriage, I was still calling you by your maiden name in front of your
Hmm.
spouse. It's the same kind of concept, right? At that point, there is a conscious choice of not learning that I am expressing to you, and it's
Hmm.
insulting to you. So think about it the way that I would say we all have similarities that we can compare to in some respect or the other.
Okay, very good. So I've seen a couple comments come in, some people enjoying this. Bob Hale, as you know, our president and CEO, said amazing
My buddy.
statistics. Yes. If anyone is tuned in right now and has questions for Ryan, now is the time. Please type those in, so we can address any questions you may have. So you've talked about education.
Mhm.
Obviously, education is key here. So what upcoming events or educational opportunities do you recommend to Houston area realtors?
Yeah, great question. So our Houston chapter of the Alliance is, I mean, top notch. We are
Hmm.
proud of that chapter. I think it's in excess of 80, 90 people now, and they're
Hmm.
constantly holding events, almost now to a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Definitely check out those events. There are great lunch and learn opportunities. That chapter partners with Freddie Mac on a national level quite frequently and does some amazing educational programming. Aside from that, I know for a fact that the Alliance on a national level is partnering with HAR, through Matt Burris and Bob and some other folks. And we're going to be bringing our Alliance Certified Ally program down to Houston, I believe this summer. And
Hmm.
that is a 90-minute interactive course. It's going to be a live course in person. And Alex, our director of education, says it's Vegas rules. We shut the door, and what happens in that room stays in that room. It's an opportunity for straight folks to be able to ask questions that they might be embarrassed about asking, to show their vulnerabilities, to share their stories about maybe there was that time, Christina, where I stepped in it and I didn't know how to recover. I can talk about that in this room. Alex goes over everything from pronouns to what all these crazy words that are coming out that no one's ever heard actually mean and how they can be used.
Hmm.
We talk about the variances in each one of the letters in the acronym. Right, there are now I think 13 letters total in the
Hmm.
LGBTQ LGBTQ plus acronym, we talk about the role of allyship and how important it is for allies. What I think is cool, 25% of our membership at the Alliance nationally identify as straight allies. That's significant, and we're really
Mhm.
proud about that. So we've got that great course coming up. You'll see more, or your members will see more about that as we get closer to ironing out all the details. And then
Mhm.
certainly, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our big catalyst event for the year. Our national conference and convention is coming down to Houston the 26th through the 28th of September. We're going to be at the Marriott Marquis right there on Discovery Green. It's going to be an absolutely phenomenal show. We just announced our line of speakers, which you can find on the website, but it really is the who's who of many different groups and specialties in the industry. There's going to be incredible networking, there's going to be incredible education. There's going to be really good food too, which I know we're excited about. And we're
Mhm.
working on some great entertainment as well. But it's certainly open for anyone. You don't have to be a member of the Alliance to register. Early bird registration is open now through the end of July, I believe. And all of those details can be found on our website. HAR and my buddy Bob Hale have been huge supporters. Mayor Turner has been a huge supporter of this conference, and we're really hoping that we're going to deliver on something special for Houston.
Very good. We had a couple people asking about the website. We did share the link, and we can share that again in just a moment. But it's just realestatealliance.org. So if you are looking for that, go check out that conference. Go check out some of the educational opportunities, and you'll see those listed on the education HAR's education website too.
And I'm going to plug our consumer site too. It's
Yeah.
LGBTQ plus PLUS homes.com. LGBTQ plus homes.com. And that is our consumer facing site. And one thing that folks will notice if you're not a member, we are the only diverse real estate association that offers a directory for all of our members to go in that goes direct to consumer. So our directory is now direct to consumer on that consumer website. Someone can come in, type in their zip code or the zip code that they're looking, generate a list of all the professionals in that area who identify as LGBTQ plus or allies, and make sure that they're working with someone that they feel comfortable being their authentic selves with.
Wonderful. That is amazing. So if there are any other questions for Ryan, now is the time. Please type those in. So far, we're just getting a lot of thank yous. They're really appreciating the information you're sharing. How else can Houston realtors get involved or support the Alliance?
Well, I think allyship was the dictionary.com's word of the year last year, I think, and just understanding what that means. No minority movement has been able to achieve equality without support from the outside. In our community, we call those folks allies. Whether you're maybe you're bisexual but you support the trans community, or you're straight and you support all of the letters in the acronym, you're considered to be an ally. We need our allies, and we need our allies now more than ever. And I don't have to tell anyone watching, especially in the state of Texas, right? Things have gotten contentious with some of these state governments. And allies matter. Allies have a strong voice. So stand up. And, the statistic right now is with an average of 3.1 people per household in the United States, and about 25% of the population identifying, that's one in every five homes in America that either has or knows someone who is LGBTQ plus. It's a huge number, folks. When you think about it, the numbers don't lie. So stand up for, maybe it's your grandchild, your niece, or your nephew. Maybe it's you or your sister. Maybe it's your best friend. But we exist and we're here, and we want the same things that you all do. We all want the American dream, and we suffer and have joy the exact same way. Get involved with the Alliance. And we are proud to offer HAR members a discount on your first year membership. That code is capital HAR23, and that'll get you $25 off your first year professional membership with the Alliance. That membership does include that directory listing that I talked about, as well as access to our chapter program, discounts to all of our national and local events, and so much more. So I would say
Wonderful.
get involved.
Thank you so much for providing that code for our members. And again, we share that in the comments. HAR23, it'll save you $25 on your first year membership with the Alliance. Ryan, thank you again for everything you've shared. We've got a lot of thank yous, great info. Britt said this has been so informative. Thank you so much. Is there
Good.
anything else you want to share with our members today?
Hey, listen, HAR has shown up in a big way since we launched almost 3 years ago now. My genuine gratitude and thank you to all of our friends down in the Houston metro area. You all have been absolutely outstanding, and the reception that you've given us has been, it's been incredibly warm. So we're excited to bring our conference down to you and participate with everyone down in Houston. Thank you again for the support and the opportunity.
Absolutely, and we look forward to seeing you in September. But again, thank you, Ryan, for all the information you shared today. This has been a great program. Repeat here. Somebody was asking. The discount code is HAR23. We just put that in the comments as well. So Ryan, again, thank you so much for the discount code, but also everything you shared today.
Totally my pleasure. Like I said, a great way to start a Monday morning, and hoping everyone out there enjoys their day.
Absolutely. Well, that is it for this Member Focus Monday, but I do want to announce that next Monday at 9 a.m., we will be joined by meteorologist Cheetah Craft with KHOU. She's going to be talking all about hurricane preparedness. Yes, it's hurricane season, everyone, if you haven't noticed. So we will discuss that next week with Cheetah Craft from KHOU. Ryan, again, thank you for your time, and have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Christina.